What's up? Welcome to the broadcast. This is Uncle D.
People wash their ass in the tub, Kamala Harris.
You would tune in to Uncle D. D's black man talk. Pull up, homie, take a seat. Don't be a shadow watcher every day. You learn something and you earn something. And let them know and drop some money in the plate. It's getting cold, ladies, talking ratchet. There's a king here, grab your coat, zip your jacket. Keep quiet for a second, close your jaw. Turn it Spurling, this ain't Furling, know the law. Talking Constitution, pushing pins when he shootin', give him that. Masculinity, just for the record, sprinkle that. You can keep your cat, gotta cut it. Only cat he rubbing, gotta love it. I call it Molly Buddy. Gotta vote your interest, voting earns. Presidential, this is for the money that I earn. When you gon' learn, my people, that evil mixed with evil. No matter what you're doing, baby, this ain't equal. Sometimes when you're special, you get hated. The test is for the best, you're damn right, my people made it. Uncle D, Blizzard King, you've been served, gotta notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you've been served, get your notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you've been served, get your notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you've been served, get your notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now.
Hey man, I'll do what I do.
Somebody need to whip your ass.
Get up and whip him, sweets.
Hey, don't be putting the money in my hand all rough.
Take your ass out here. You buy you a Floby and cut your own damn hair from now on.
Settling trend has emerged. The liberals have lost the presidential race. And rather than examining the shortcomings of Kamala Harris's campaign, of the media is directing blame towards black men. Black men somehow bear responsibility for this outcome as if our choices at the ballot box were an act of betrayal.
Quit breaking my heart.
Hey, Big Bass.
Ooh, quit breaking my heart. Oh,
you hate black women. You can't say you don't now.
They'll start killing you young one by one. They gonna start killing y'all.
When the police got your ass in the mother chokehold.
Don't you come calling black women. Don't you come calling us to come march for your ass.
Cause y'all just fucking hate women. That's all it is. Of course they wouldn't go vote for no black lady. When you a black woman surrounded by black men, what? So that's a good candidate for you? Someone who just hates everybody?
Bad guy, blame me, never faded. How you be the most loved and the most hated? Every other race you respect overrated. The greatest of all time first got created. Yeah, bad guy, blame me, never faded. How we be the most loved and the most hated. Every other race you respect overrated. The greatest of all time first got created. Ooh. You can scrub me, or even thug me. Baby, even at my worst, they still love me. How he locked up, she loyal to a known G. To leave your husband, he ain't giving you strong D. Gotta tighten up, be on your defense. A lot of debauchery popping in the deep end. See, your corners ain't shutting down, hit the bench. A lot of suckers sipping on the Kool-Aid, you a simp. Bring it back home to the streets. Like father, like son, Lil Meech, Big Meech. Like Bronny and his dad, footsteps trying to follow. We ain't gonna let you make a nigga endorsing Kamala. Black men celebrate, pop a few bottles. Middle fingers up, rest in peace, now follow. Most loved, most hated, most hated. We passing out fades, anybody wanna fade it. Be careful what you wish for, all my lovely ladies. Cause every baby terminated, God gon' make you haters. Most loved, most hated, most hated. We passing out fades, anybody wanna fade it. Careful what you wish for, all my lovely ladies. Cause every baby terminated, God gon' make you haters on. Bad guy, blame me, never faded. How we be the most loved and the most hated. Every other race you respect overrated. Greatest of all time first got created. Bad guy, blame me, never faded. How you be the most loved and the most hated. Every other race you respect overrated. Greatest of all time first got created. Black men, they told us they ain't even want us. No matter what is going on, put the blame on us. Kevin spoke up, then they put the shame on us.
Brother Spurling met his fiance in my mixed group. That's my wife. I'm gonna put her through law school. She's gonna become an attorney at my practice. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about.
Blizzard King defended him, they put the flames on him. Next time white women went Trump crazy. Left you standing there talking about deleting babies.
Black women so goddamn stupid that y'all just allow society just to say that she's a black woman.
Not hers, Maria, Jackie Chan. You the only one that went against your man. You the only one that's fighting for every plan. You the only one that left you right where you stand. Power is a mother. Ain't it? Make a woman wanna be a nah, ain't it? That's your uncle, but she used to be your auntie. We don't wanna see you in power, that's how you paint it. Original Big Mama, original Miss Mammy, original Ma Dear.
I'm Donald Trump's new communication director because all the rest of them sorry asses got fired.
Yeah, original black granny. What happened to you? You fell for the eye candy. You left your black man, your black family. Took them handouts, them goodies and giveaways. Just look around your hood. See, this the price you pay.
In Georgia, it was even worse. One exit poll said that 69% of white women voted for Trump. Even after he took away their reproductive rights and was found liable for sexual assault, the majority of white women voters still chose patriarchy over their own liberation.
That's it.
It's that simple.
Bad guy, blame me, never faded. How you be the most loved and the most hated? Every other race you respect overrated. The greatest of all time, the first got created. Ooh.
That 69% of white women voted for Trump.
Yeah, bad guy, blame me, never faded. How we be the most loved and the most hated. Every other race you respect overrated. Greatest of all time, first got created. Ooh.
69% of white women voted for Trump.
Yeah, I'm tired.
Ooh.
I'm tired. Black woman, it's time for us to clock out. It's time for us to clock out. I'm telling you. When all the immigrants,
Few moments
all the Puerto
later.
Ricans start getting deported, we clocked out. We not riding.
Independence Day. On August 15th, 1947, men and women all over India rejoiced in the declaration of the independence of the country of India. Today, on August 15th, 2020, I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. So I hope you celebrate today, and then tomorrow, I hope you join me in getting to work.
Is this your king? Is this your king?
Will become the 47th President of the United States.
The former president's comeback will be complete with a win in Wisconsin, a state that he narrowly lost 4 years ago. He's now the second president in U.S. history to win non-consecutive terms. The first was
My bad, can you guys hear me? Hit the number one button if you can. My bad, y'all. Like I'm saying, while you all couldn't hear me, I got caught up into that video, man. That was pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. Big shout out, real powerful. In fact, shout out to Big Bass Life. Yeah. What's up? Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast, man. This is Dennis Spurling. Look here, man. A phrase. I mean, first of all, shout out to everybody who's been here for a long time. You guys who've been here for a long time, you guys know that I've always been very patriotic as to the United States. Those of you guys who know my backstory, you know that both of my brothers are Marines, United States Marine Corps. So shout out to United States Marine Corps. Our grandfather was a Marine. He was a high-ranking sergeant in the Marine Corps. My second oldest brother, or my middle brother, he was one of the highest-ranking enlisted Marines before he recently got out. And my younger brother is a Marine. Okay. My favorite uncle, Uncle Robert, that you guys know about from my books, he was a Marine, and he volunteered. Not only was he a Marine, but he volunteered during Vietnam. He was a regular enlisted, which means when everybody else was getting drafted, my uncle from Mississippi, my mother's oldest brother, volunteered to go to the Army, and he was in the 101st Airborne. He got out, stayed out for a year, boxed for a little while, and then went back into the military during the Vietnam era as a Marine and became a Marine, a military police. So I come from a long line, multiple cousins who are in the military. I myself, as an attorney, have sworn an oath to the United States. And so I take that seriously. I recognize the magnitude of what I've done. I've recognized how good this country has been to me. I recognize the requirements to make sure we keep this country the way it is. So I say all that to say, when I hear the phrase, make America great again, I say to myself, America has always been great. Let me say that again. When I say make America great again, what American could be against making America great again? And see, this phrase carries profound meaning for me, and it provokes, but see, here's the thing, it provokes deep skepticism in others. Now, as a proud patriot, I believe it's important to unpack this idea and explore what truly makes America great and dispel the notion that our historical struggles, be they slavery, racism, civil rights battles, Native American genocide, or even the tragedies of war, diminish our exceptionalism as a nation. So the question is, what makes a nation great? Are you guys with me? Make sure, look, we're going on a philosophical journey. We're not going to be here a long time, but it's going to be a good time. Okay? We're not going to be here a long time, but it's going to be a good time. We're going on a philosophical journey. I'm going to take you on a trip through history. We might go back 1,000 years. And the question that I'm asking you all is, shout out to all my patriots. Shout out to all my military servicemen. Shout out to all the military service personnel, men and women, who serve this country. The Army, United States Navy, United States Air Force, United States Marine Corps, National Guard, Coast Guard, Space Force. Shout out to everybody who served. Those are our greatest heroes. Now, make America great again was originally a phrase that Ronald Reagan came up with. And in 2014, 2015, Donald Trump adopted it. And so oftentimes when people are asked, well, what makes America great? First of all, it's a loaded question, okay? See, it's a loaded question, but let's start with this. Let's start by asking ourselves, what makes a great nation? And throughout history, the most remarkable nations have shared certain key attributes, and America embodies all of those, and it does so in an extraordinary way. So America leads the world in innovation. From the creation of the internet to groundbreaking medical breakthroughs, from space exploration to transformative technologies, America has consistently pushed the boundaries of what is possible. And also at the heart of our greatness is our Constitution, a document built on freedom, equality, and justice. It is a guidepost that has allowed us to weather challenges while respecting the rule of law and ensuring the peaceful transfer of power. And then it's undisputed that America is the largest economy in the world. I mean, look at all the millionaires we have. 2/3 of the millionaires live in the United States. 2/3 of the millionaires in the world, that's over 60% of the millionaires in the world live right here in the United States. And what that tells you is that this economy that we have offers opportunities for upward mobility to anyone willing to seize them. People come to this country broke, and they literally work themselves up to being millionaires. It's a global hub for entrepreneurship. It's a global hub for innovation and commerce. And if we want to talk about culture, Whether we're talking about music, whether we're talking about cinema, whether we're talking about literature and art, America shapes the global culture. And America is it's a melting pot of ideas and traditions and identities that converge to create something greater than the sum of its parts. And we don't need to talk about the military strength. America's military has historically defended the democratic values of every free nation across the globe, and it's formed alliances that promote stability and maintain peace. We have bailed out Europe, Africa, Asia, and so many other countries that would have been overrun by dictators by now. It is America's military that does that. And let's talk about our humanitarian leadership. It's this nation that has a long history of leadership in humanitarian efforts. From disaster relief to medical advancements, our charitable contributions, both at home and abroad, have saved lives and inspired hope. No other nation enshrines freedom like the United States. There's no such thing as freedom and individual rights in these other countries. We taught Europe, we taught England that a monarchy was bad. You didn't have individual rights. A right to free speech? No. A right to religion? No. An assembly or not? You didn't. These are the realities. Our history of social movements demonstrates our commitment to making these rights more inclusive. And look at this situation. America is a nation of people who aren't from here. A place where people from every corner of the globe have come to build their lives. And this fusion of cultures and tradition, it creates an unparalleled set of opportunities. No nation is without struggles. But what sets America apart is its resilience. We've overcome civil wars, economic depression, and social injustice, and we've always strived towards a more perfect union. Now, finally, America is a nation with vision. We look to the future, investing in education, renewable energy, artificial intelligence, space exploration, and this forward-thinking mindset is what ensures that our continued greatness. So, why is America a great nation? America's great. Greatness, it doesn't come from perfection. It comes from the ability to self-correct, to reform, and to grow stronger through diversity. And the founding fathers designed a system that allows for change, whether through constitutional amendments, social reforms, or landmark legislation. America's exceptionalism is what makes us great. No other nation has managed to blend diversity with unity on such a scale. We have people from all walks of the planet, from all sorts of different faiths, fighting together in one military, working together in different businesses and corporations, living next door to each other. America's dream remains a symbol of hope for millions of people around the globe. And as a beacon of democracy and freedom, America has inspired liberation movements throughout the world. And our institutions are built on the ideals that transcend our imperfections. They are designed to evolve, to adapt, and to better serve the people. Let me be clear. America's greatness is not diminished by its struggles. It is defined by them. Our battles, painful as they may be, are proof that our strength and resolve are there. They show that we are a nation capable of reflection, reform, and resilience. When we say make America great again, we're not suggesting that greatness was ever truly lost. Instead, we're renewing our commitment to the principles that make us the greatest nation in history. So what we're going to talk about tonight is what you all need to hear, because it's a lot of anti-American sentiment in the United States. And with this latest election of Donald Trump, we're taking out the trash. Somebody type, take out the trash in the chat room. I am truly of the opinion, if you don't like America, you can leave. Let me say that again. If you don't like America, you are welcome to leave. There are plenty of other countries. You can go to Canada, you can go to Mexico, you can go to Pakistan, you can go anywhere you want to go. Your American passport will take you there. But what we're not going to do is continue to allow people to just disparage the United States of America because we have to live here. Why would you talk bad about the place where you live? So let's look at this. Oftentimes, when you're dealing with these people who are anti-Trump, or really they're just anti-American, especially when they're talking to black people, they'll say, "When was America great?" Have you guys ever heard that before? Y'all hit the number 1 button. Let me know you with me. Come on, let's get a little excitement up here on this Friday evening. Y'all hit the number 1 button. Okay, hit the number 1 button. Let me know you're up in here. Shout out to all my people. We got Braxton, Mark the Freelancer, Glow Hardy. That's right. Who else we got up in Chaos Rain? Devin Townsend, Jamal Smith. Who's going to be the first one to contribute to the super chat? Okay, because I'm about to arm you with something. First of all, I don't like the fact that in order to dissuade black people from voting Republican, there's always some sort of name calling, always some sort of attempt to make black people feel stupid when we say, hey, we're going to make America great again. First of all, black people are the most patriotic group of, in my opinion, the most patriotic group of Americans that ever lived, because we are the only Americans that had to fight for every right that every other American was given. Okay? And shout out to my man Fish You Guy. And when they ask you when was America great again, after you say make America great again, it's a loaded question and is designed to provoke a reflection on America's historical injustices. It assumes that the concept of American greatness cannot coexist with its imperfect past, which includes slavery, Jim Crow laws, and systematic racism. However, this question oversimplifies a complex truth about the nation's greatness. See, the assumption of a golden era, right? All right. Well, let's shout out to my man Jamal Smith. Big up to the DMV. We got to unpack that loaded question. All right. And embedded in that question is an assumption that there was a golden era. And the question implies that the proponents or people who support the term make America great again are nostalgically referring to a time when racial inequality and segregation and discrimination were institutionalized. For Black Americans, it feels like an erasure of our struggle and the contributions to make America great. And so America has always been a work in progress. Its greatness doesn't stem from a flawless history, but from its ability to evolve, to challenge injustice, and expand freedoms through collective struggle. The greatness lies in the ideals outlined in the Constitution and ongoing fight to make those ideals accessible to everybody. Shout out to my man Damian Gross across, and shout out to Canary Valens. Are you guys under? Because this is very important that we understand this. Stop letting them punk you into talking about your country, the country that provides security for you, the country that's helped you build your wealth, the country that keeps you alive. There's no other group of Black people on this planet that get treated as well as Black people do here financially and freedom-wise. See, America's greatness lies in the ideals outlined in the Constitution, okay? Keep that in mind. Now, when you look at, so when you, let's say by framing the question that way, okay, when was America great? Critics often overlook that Black people have always been integral in America's greatness, building the economy through our labor, whether it be because of slavery and voluntarily. We still did it. Pioneering advancements in science, culture, and politics, despite oppression. We did that. Leading the civil rights movements, leading the military. Okay? And you guys who've been with me for a while, you know it was the United States military which truly led the civil rights movement. So keep that in mind, okay? So I'm going to argue that Black Americans can and should take pride in the role in shaping America into the nation it is today. When asked, when was America great? Your response should be, America has always been great. It's great when it's struggling with civil rights movements. And it showcases resilience and moral leadership in the face of segregation and racism. America was great during World War II. And Americans, Black Americans were great. The Tuskegee Airmen and other Black soldiers fought for a country that didn't yet grant them full rights, exemplifying patriotism and sacrifice. Greatness was still there in this country, but it was because of the great people, and I'm specifically talking to Black soldiers at this point, it was those great soldiers that exemplified those traits that couldn't be ignored. America is great in its principles. Look at the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution enshrine the ideals like freedom and equality. Where else is that in the world? And this is at its inception. Even if they weren't fully realized for everyone at first, those principles remain the foundation of progress. We forced America to do what it said it was supposed to do, freedom and justice for all. And when we talk about Black people's contributions to greatness, we partake in that greatness. Whether we're talking about agriculture or jazz music, from the Harlem Renaissance to the first Black president, Black Americans have been central to America's greatness. So we could take credit for that. Again, America was never perfect, but it always has been great. It's always been great in its potential, in its ideals, and its ability to evolve. Black Americans have been at the forefront of ensuring the nation lives up to its promise. The question itself becomes an opportunity for you all to highlight how greatness isn't about a single point in history, but about a journey, one that Black Americans have consistently helped lead. Look, to dismiss America's greatness is to dismiss the achievements of not just all Americans, but Black Americans who helped fight and fought to make this place great. And what you do when you do this is you reframe the conversation from a grievance to empowerment, and you celebrate both the struggle and the triumphs that make America unique and an exceptional nation. Now, I want to challenge you all to come with me through history. We often romanticize Africa. Shout out to all my Pan-Africans out there. We often romanticize Africa, and I've studied enough about Africa over the past 5 decades of my life. And some of you all have been with me on that journey when I would talk about history. When we talk about great leaders like Shaka Zulu, Shaka, the king of the Zulus, you guys know who I'm talking about, right? They had a special that came out back in the 1980s where they talked about Shaka Zulu. Did you know that Shaka Zulu killed 2 million Africans? 2 million in conquering those lands. They're about in South Africa. He killed 2 million people. But we accept the fact that the Zulu nation was great, right? Where y'all at? Don't run from this. Don't run from this now. If you think that Shaka Zulu was great and he was a great king and the Zulu nation was a great nation, that's fair. I'm okay with that. He innovated warfare. He protected his territory. The Zulus went on to fight great battles against the European invaders because of the legacy of Shaka. But there's still that moral dilemma of his brutality and the fact that he killed 2 million Africans. Does that take away from his greatness? Or is that a moral conundrum that he, like many other nations and national leaders, have to deal with? See, again, I'm re-emphasizing the point that a nation can be great, a people can be great, a kingdom can be great, and still have moral conundrums. These are not diametrically opposed. Let's move on to the great Genghis Khan. You all know who Genghis Khan is? Somebody type Genghis Khan in the chat room. Come on now. Come on. Come on. Come on now. Don't run away. Do you guys know who Genghis Khan was? Some of you do, some of you don't. Genghis Khan was a great leader. He conquered pretty much all of Asia, all the way up to the steppes. And they did it through these innovative horseback. He came from a horse culture, okay? And they called it the Golden Horde. And they unalived millions of people. They unalived. He was seen as a military genius. He used these revolutionary tactics where they would just overrun cities. He came from urban, humble beginnings, from a nomadic tribe. His father was assassinated. His family ostracized him, but he was politically savvy. He used these revolutionary tactics to psychological warfare, espionage, adaptability, and it made his forces unstoppable. And at its height, the Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous empire in history. It spanned from the Pacific Ocean all the way to Eastern Europe. He is the one that helped facilitate innovation and cultural exchange along the Silk Road. That's what he did. Okay? He even promoted people based on individual talent and loyalty rather than just birthright. And that was innovative at that time. On top of that, he was what they would call tolerant, because there were people of many different faiths who lived under his rule. He also had legal reforms. He established order and discipline across vast territories. Under his rulership, there was, my God, there was order. Okay? Genghis Khan is deemed, he united so many territories. He's indirectly inspired advances in science and technology and commerce. Genghis Khan. Here's a crazy fact. There are genetics studies that suggest that his lineage persists in millions of people today. Okay? His genetic studies, what does that mean? Huh? What do you think that means? What do you think that means? What that means is that in his conquest, he raped a large number of women. Does that then take away from his greatness or the greatness of the Mongol Empire? Huh? Does it? Let me give you something else. He caused the death of 40 to 60 million people during his conquest in the early 13th century. Let me run that back to you. He caused the death of 40 to 60 million people during his conquest. Does that take away from his greatness? Somebody, yes or no? Again, we have these moral conundrums that every nation has to deal with. The Mongolian nation, that golden horde under Genghis Khan, they unalived 40 to 60 million people. So clearly, there was some moral turpitude there. There was some questionable morals involved. But does that take away from the greatness? So again, we're talking about America's greatness, and we had to deal with slavery. And oftentimes when Black people are out there being patriotic and saying, yeah, make America great again, they'll say, well, when was America great? And you say, and they want to relate back to a golden era. And they try to pin you down and say, you want to go back to being a subject to Jim Crow? No, America was always great. But just like all the rest of these nations, there have been issues that we've had to deal with. If we look at Genghis Khan, it's well documented that his conquest involved widespread sexual violence. And it was common during many of these ancient military campaigns. His soldiers were known to take women as concubines or slaves. And some report suggests that Genghis Khan himself had numerous wives and concubines, and they all were not voluntary. For this man to have millions of descendants, how many women did he impregnate by himself? He literally fathered hundreds and hundreds of children by women who were more likely than not were not willing volunteers. They were simply conquests. But do we take away from his greatness? Okay? So we talked about Shaka Zulu. In Africa, he unalived 2 million. We talked about Genghis Khan over in China. He unalived 40 to 60 million. What about the Native Americans? Uh-oh. So we always talk about how the white man came to the United States, or what was North America, and fought with the Indians and took their land and committed genocide. Well, what were the Native Americans doing? Were they getting along fine and building civilizations? Or were they fighting amongst each other? Do you think their warrior culture developed solely because the white man showed up at their shore? Or were they doing it to the ones that came before them? The bigger, more ferocious Indian tribes would take over and conquer the weaker Indian tribes. When the Spanish introduced the horse, they didn't use it for farming. They used it for riding and killing and hunting. I'm just saying. And so what happened was the European came over and they fought. These people weren't over here getting along like that. I'm just saying. Native Americans unalived other Native Americans before the white man even showed up. So does that take away from the greatness of their nations? Does that take away from what they contributed? Because they were willing to unalive each other? Native Americans engaged in conflicts. All the different nations, they engaged in conflicts with each other before, during, and after the European colonization. Just as any other part of the world, Native American societies, they weren't monolithic. They were composed of diverse cultures, languages, and political structures. And while many tribes had peaceful relations and intertribal conflict was common. Many Native American tribes engaged in warfare and raids against neighboring tribes over resources. They had territorial disputes. Some issues rose out of revenge and political dominance. The Iroquois Confederacy also, they often fought against other groups like the Algonquin and the Huron tribes. The Sykes, the Cheyenne, and other Plains tribes, they frequently fought over hunting grounds, and there was intense rivalries between these groups. They killed each other. You even had some Native Americans forming alliances and confederacies for mutual defense or to wage war against other tribes. So the practice of scalping, removing a portion of the scalp as a trophy or proof of a kill, that was practiced by some Native American tribes before the European contact. And it became more widespread after the Europeans introduced the practice as a form of bounty for colonial wars. Scalping was used by both Native Americans and European settlers during these wars. But it started, they did that themselves to each other. So does that take away from the greatness of those Native American tribes? That's what I'm asking you. And if it doesn't, then how then does that we are placing moral judgment values on these ancient histories, but these ancient cultures, but I'm asking you, does that take away from America's greatness? I'm asking. The Apache people, particularly the Chiricahua Apache, they were involved in numerous conflicts with other Native American tribes, along with the Spanish, the Mexicans, and the Americans. Does that take away from the Apache nation's greatness? So then why do we allow people to take away from America's greatness? By forcing us to answer the question, or they try to conflate the moral dilemmas that we've had to deal with what makes the country a great nation. That's not acceptable, and you shouldn't accept that. Oftentimes we talk about how brutal we are at war. We talk about the fact that America is the only nation to ever drop atomic bombs on people. But if we're referring to World War II, let me remind you that we didn't pick that fight. We ended it when Fat Man and the Little Boy were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We ended those wars. We had won the war on the Western Front. There was still the war in the Pacific. President Truman found out that old soldier himself found out that we had the nuclear bomb or the atom bomb. And he wanted to end the war in the Pacific. And in doing so, he made the decision. And the story goes, he prayed about it and he gave the order. This was in August 1945. And people say it's controversial. On August 6, 1945, he dropped Little Boy, which was a uranium-based A-bomb on Hiroshima. It killed 140,000 people. Three days later, the Japanese said, no, you won't do that again. 3 days later, he dropped another one on them called Fat Man. That killed 70,000 people. That was in Nagasaki. 6 days later, Japan announced they surrendered. Truman wanted to end. They didn't want to invade the Japanese mainland. They didn't want millions more casualties on both sides. Prior to dropping those bombs, Japan showed no signs of unconditional surrender. They weren't going to do it. Had he not dropped those bombs, we could have lost another 1 to 2 million American boys and millions more Japanese. He did what he had to do. Do you think that makes America less great than what it was? No. America's always been great. America always will be great. But that still is a moral dilemma. And that's what you all have to learn to deal with. Look, I'm not going to be here long. But what I want you all to understand is this. Those of you who've traveled, hopefully you quickly realize that you don't have a whole lot of other places to go. Africa does not want you. Africa has its own problems. It has its own moral dilemmas. And there is no nation in the continent of Africa as great as the United States. There are no group of Africans outside of these United States of America that do as well as Black Americans do. There's no other place in the world that you can go and pull yourself up from the bottom and come to the point that you live a successful, financially well-off life, and you don't have to worry about your children financially. Now, let me say this. Right now, we're dealing with a moral conundrum. Shout out to African Dyadic Stoetic. Right now, we're dealing with a moral conundrum. America is still great, but our moral compass is a little warped. It's a little lopsided. It's time to take out the trash. It's time to dump the garbage because we've lost our way. Somebody made us believe that we can't be great unless we're so open-minded that our brains fall out. Let me explain that. Somebody has made us believe that it is oppression equivalent to slavery and Jim Crow if we don't want to allow our children to be brainwashed into being rainbow riders. Let me say that again. Somebody has convinced us that we are closed-minded bigots if we don't want our children who are at the point where they're little kids asexual in the first place, unless somebody's messed with them, unless we allow them to be brainwashed by the rainbow riders, we're somehow bigots. It's time to take the trash out. Somebody has convinced us that if we don't allow people to come in this country illegally and then house them and give them money and give them food and give them a place to live and give them a weekly and monthly stipend, we're somehow xenophobic. Let me say that again. Somebody has convinced us that we are morally bankrupt if we don't allow our southern borders to be flooded by people from all over the world who come here illegally to step in line in front of the people who've been waiting in line to get the bounty that America offers. Somebody has convinced us of that. Somehow we are morally bankrupt if we don't want folks to get more benefits from America than America's get. Somehow, our great military veterans, who many of them have mental issues, PTSD, psychological issues, who are living underneath the bridges and byways of America, who can't even go to the VA and get some decent treatment. Somehow, we're morally bankrupt if we don't put these illegal immigrants who are coming straight out of these prisons from South America and all around the world, if we don't put them first before we put our own military vets, somehow we're morally bankrupt. It's time to take the trash out. See, there was a time when there was somebody who had convinced us that slavery was the moral thing to do. They even had Bible verses that supported it. And we had to take that trash out. Then there was others that had us believing that segregation was the morally correct thing to do. And we realized that that was trash, and we had to take that out. Now we're at the point that in the name of freedom, we have boys who were born boys who are beating up little girls in boxing rings and on wrestling mats, in swimming pools and track meets, and taking scholarships and money set aside for little girls. On top of that, we have boys that were born boys that feel as though that in the name of freedom and moral justice, they have a right to use the female facilities for bathrooms. It's time to take that garbage out. See, there's always going to be a battle, a moral battle for Americans to fight. Whether we're talking about the revolutionary times where it was deemed anti-patriotic to fight against the King of England, that was a moral conundrum that our forefathers faced. There was a moral conundrum that arose during the Civil War. How can we take the well-being and the financial machine of the slavery from our Southern brother, and then the Northern say, well, how can you think that enslaving another human being is something that can be sustained? That's immoral. So there was a moral battle going on. Both sides thought they were right. And at the end of the day, we fought. The Civil War was fought and won, and the good side won. That's been the tale of America. After slavery ended, there was 100 years of Jim Crow, and the good side won. The moral battles, the good side won. Mass incarceration showed up. And it looked like now that you got more black men in college and less black men in prison, and they are reforming the prison industrial complex, we're getting over that. But now we're in a situation where they're literally trying to confuse your children and make them think they are they, thems, and its instead of he, she's, and hers, and hims. And we're going to win that battle too. Are you guys with me? Do you understand what Make America Great Again means? It has nothing to do with this nation. This nation is great because for all our moral dilemmas, we still push the envelope. So don't let them bait you into one of those questions and have you questioning whether or not America's great. Go find me another country that's a greater nation than the United States. Go find me one. And for you black folks that are always blaming white folks for slavery, how do I say this? Slavery existed on the African continent before Europe was even formed. Arabs in the Arab slave trade pre-existed the European slave trade or the transatlantic slave trade by 1,600 years. Look in your Quran. African kings and queens that we look up to. Mansa Musa had 12 million slaves. Now, some of you all are going to say, oh, well, they didn't treat their slaves that way. Let me get this straight. You trying to tell me that slaves got treated better? And that's what you're trying to tell? They got treated better in Saudi Arabia and Persia? Is that what maybe you haven't read the historical accounts. Nevertheless, all the white man, all the European man did was just pull up on the west coast of Africa and load his boat up. At that point, all the European was doing was patronizing previously existing black-owned businesses. I'm just saying. We just want to be honest with each other. Are we going to be honest? You don't think those African kings and queens that you worship sold your black behind into slavery and got a profit for it? It existed over 500 years. There are numerous accounts of black people who were sold into slavery, bought themselves out of slavery, purchased themselves boats and ships, and began to import and export slaves, African slaves themselves. And so you're telling me that they didn't know anything about slavery? They didn't know about the horrors of slavery? So who's to pass judgment on anybody for that? I'm just asking. There are numerous accounts, whether it be in Brazil, in the Congo, the west coast of Africa, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Gambia. They knew exactly what they were doing. Don't be so naive as to think that your African brothers and sisters were totally innocent for 5 centuries. They knew absolutely, they had no idea what was happening to you in this Western Hemisphere. That would make you a fool. And any scholar who tells you that with a straight face is a liar. Or at least not as well read as they should be, or purposely trying to hold back. In fact, there was a study that came out that suggested when we began to look at the number of African Americans who held slaves in places like South Carolina and Mississippi, the determination was made that we needed to keep this quiet. We trying to have black unity. They couldn't tell y'all about that. If they told you about that, you'd be like, what kind of unity? But there are at least half a dozen notable black slave owners that I can think of offhand. And so are you telling me that when we talk about slavery, it wasn't just a white European thing? Look at Anthony and Mary Johnson. They got to Virginia. And shout out to my man BGS Ibmore. Y'all need to make sure y'all go to that man's channel. Give BGS a hand clap. But when you talk about Anthony Johnson, from 1600 to 1670, he was an African man who arrived to Virginia as an indentured servant. And he became one of the first African Americans to own land and enslave people. And by 1650, he had acquired a plantation and owned at least one enslaved African man named John Casser. A case of John Casser particularly famous because Johnson sued for and won the right to have Casser permanently bound to him as a slave. So when you look in the history of American slavery, it was a black man suing to have another black man as a slave. Look the case up. Don't be mad at me when you want to talk about morality. What about William Ellison? 1790 to 1861. He was a former enslaved man who gained his freedom. And this black man went on to become one of the wealthiest black men in South Carolina. He became a prominent cotton gin manufacturer and owned a significant amount of land. And at the height of his success, he owned several slaves himself. They ran his business. And you telling me this former enslaved man didn't know what slavery was? James Durham, he was a medical doctor. And he owned slaves. Madison Hemings, she was one of the children of Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson. He was born a slave. And he became a free farmer in Ohio. And he owned a small number of slaves. Everybody did it for the same reason. It was economic opportunity. Some did it for family protection. Some did it for social status. Just like you all will be judged by the people who come after you. How could you be walking around with these fancy shoes on? They cost $200 or $300, and you got black people under the bridge over there starving. You don't think the future generations are going to pass judgment on you? How could you allow your daughter or son to cut their sexual parts off because they told you that they thought they was something of another, the other sex that they wasn't born with? They're going to judge you too. These are the moral conundrums that we have to deal with, but that does not take America away from its greatness. That's what I need you all to understand. Did you know that in South Carolina, over 40% of the slave owners were black? Charleston, South Carolina. Isn't that something? So we participated in that as black people. So the next time somebody says, well, we want to go back to slavery, when they ask you, when was America great? Name when America was great. And they say, you think America was great during slavery? America's always been great. Well, what about during slavery? Slavery, black people owned slaves. Black people were sold into slavery by other black people in Africa. That doesn't take away from America's greatness. I explained to you all earlier, look at all the other nations around the world who committed atrocities. There were some czars in Russia that just put an edict out there and just said, everybody living on your land is now your indentured servant. Their indentured servants, their children's children are indentured servants. That's Russia. They went from free peasants living on the land and working the land to just being indentured servants. That's what happened. No vote, no nothing. Somebody said, yeah, under the Romanovs. That's exactly right. Y'all just all gonna be slaves now. And if you, that means your children and your children's children. Does that mean Russia's not great? Does that mean all the great inventions that come, all of the progress, does that mean that it's not great? No. But it has a moral dilemma that it has to deal with. What makes America great, again, is that we deal with these moral dilemmas. Just like we're going to deal with this wokeism, this deviant sexuality thing that we got going on, where we're trying to brainwash children and parents into believing that their children who aren't even old enough to drive can make a decision as to what sexuality they want to be. This is a lie, Major Payne. That's a lie. He says the majority of black slave owners brought their family members, and those same black members oftentimes sold those same black family members back into slavery to people who weren't related to them. I got the books. I got the books. I'm not here for that. But this is where we are. Okay? This is where we are. Somebody type "Make America Great" again in the chat room. Somebody type "Make America Great Again" in the chat room. Somebody type "Make America Great Again" in the chat room. Okay? We're going to deal with what we're dealing with. I'm happy that Donald Trump is in office. I'm happy that he's been persecuted like he's been persecuted. I'm happy that he had to deal with a corrupt Department of Justice. I'm happy that he had to deal with a corrupt criminal justice system on the state level and the federal level. I'm glad that he had to deal with a corrupt media that attacked him and his family. It's unfortunate that they created the climate where you got these crazy people who came out and tried to unalive this man. It's unfortunate. But even in that, there's a blessing, because now he realizes what he has to do as a president. You see? See, we're at a pivotal moment. One where truth and justice and accountability hang in the balance. Today, you hold the power to decide not just what happens in this country, but to send a message about what we value as a society. Shout out to African Diatic. The facts have been laid bare. The evidence is undeniable. We've seen the actions and the choices and the consequences. This is not a simple matter of misunderstanding or mistake of judgment. This is a case about responsibility. A responsibility that was ignored, abused, and outright rejected by those leaders who came before. Justice is not about convenience. That's what we're looking for. And that's part of the reason why we need to make America great again, so we can get our moral compass headed in the right direction. See, the whole phrase, "Make America Great Again," it sparked so many debates. It's ignited so many passions and it's polarized so many people. And what I've done tonight, and hopefully I've cut through the noise to get to the heart of what it means, not as a slogan, but as a call to action rooted in the values that define our nation. Shout out to Elim. America's greatness was never about perfection. It was never about pretending that our past was without pain or struggle. It was about the promise, the audacious belief that a nation filled up with rejected immigrants, cast out slaves, derelicts, crooks, Protestants, could build a nation of principles, could build a nation based on principles of freedom, equality, and opportunity. That is outlandish. And despite the challenges, despite the scars of history, America has always been a place where those principles could take root and flourish. So to those people who ask you, when was America great? Let me answer clearly. America has always been great because of its ideals, its resilience, and its ability to rise above its mortal flaws. The greatness of this nation lies not in its mistakes, but in its ability to confront them, its ability to grow from them and to evolve and to create a better future. MAGA isn't just about nostalgia for a mythical past. It's about renewing our commitment to those ideals. It's about innovation, leadership, and a shared vision for a future where every American has a chance to succeed. But let me be clear. America's greatness isn't diminished by acknowledging its struggles, slavery, racism, which still exists, the civil rights battles, which still exist, the injustices facing Native Americans. They're not stains that erase our greatness. They're battles that define it. Because America's story is one of triumph through adversity. It's the story of people who refuse to give up. They refuse to give up on a promise of a more perfect union. So when we talk about making America great again, it's not a rejection of progress. It's a reminder that our greatness has always been built on the shoulders of those who dared to fight for what is right. Bars. And so today, as we go into this new administration, shout out to Elim. Today, as we go to navigate, we have to understand that we're dealing with a lot of division and uncertainty. But what I urge you all to do is reclaim the meaning of greatness, to move forward, not backward. To honor the principles that made this nation a beacon of hope for the world, and to understand that America's greatness is not a relic of the past, it's a responsibility we carry into the future. Let me reemphasize, America's greatness has never been about perfection. It's not about pretending that we don't have scars. It's about understanding that those scars do not define us. They remind us of our capacity to overcome, to rise above, and to become better. See, when people say, when was America great? They're missing the point. America's greatness has always been about its ideals, its principles, and number one, its people. America's been great every era. It's been great in every era that we lived up to those principles. It was great when them drunk white boys from Europe, a bunch of farmers and scholars, came together at the first and second Continental Conference, drunk as a skunk and high as a Georgia pine, and they came together and wrote the Constitution, daring to create a republic that placed power in the hands of the people. That's what they did. And fought a war behind it and won. A war with a militia comprised of ex-soldiers from different countries, slaves, free men, Native Americans, and won and beat the most powerful kingdom or empire on the planet, Great Britain. It was great when abolitionists fought to end the horror of slavery, knowing that a nation built on liberty could not tolerate such a contradiction. That's when America was great, and it still is. Even dealing with that moral conundrum. America was great when its greatest generation stormed the beaches of Normandy, not for conquest, not for riches, not for wealth, but to liberate others from tyranny. America was great when Dr. Martin Luther King stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and dared to dream a dream that lived up or forced America to live up to its promise that all men are created equal. And see, these moments didn't erase the challenges we face. They prove that America's greatness lies in its ability to confront those challenges head on. It's about our resilience. It's about our innovation, and it's about our belief in something bigger than ourselves. But what does greatness mean today? It means renewing our commitment to what has always made this nation exceptional. It means looking forward, not backward. It means recognizing that we have unfinished business to do and rolling up our sleeves to do it. It's about fostering innovation and leading the world in technology and medicine and science. It's about ensuring that every American, regardless of race, creed, or class, has access to opportunity and the tools to succeed. It's about protecting our freedoms. Freedom to speak, the freedom to worship, to build, and to dream. It's about unity, not uniformity. A nation where diversity is our strength and our shared values are our foundation. And let me address the elephant in the room. MAGA, or Make America Great Again, is not about exclusion. It's about inclusion. No self-respecting Americans should not support the idea of making America great again. Somebody type MAGA in the chat room. It's about calling every American, no matter where they come from or what they believe, to step up and be part of something bigger. It's about rejecting the cynicism that says America's best days are behind us. So to those who mock or dismiss the idea of greatness, I say this to you. Greatness is not given, it's earned. It's earned every time an entrepreneur starts a business, every time a soldier defends our freedoms, every time a teacher shapes the minds of the next generation. And let's not also forget that greatness requires responsibility. If we want to make America great again, it's not about slogans or shouting matches. It's about action. It's about being engaged citizens, holding our leaders accountable and committing ourselves to the hard work of building a better future. Ladies and gentlemen, the story of the United States of America is still being written. And the pen is in your hands. And when we say make America great again, we're not longing for a mythical past that never existed. We are lighting the torch. And the reason I say it never existed, because even during those time periods, there were moral conundrums, and I went over that in detail. What we're talking about is lighting the torch for a future where our nation lives up to its highest ideals. America's greatness is not behind us. It's ahead of us. It's ahead of you. It's in every new breakthrough, every new bold idea, every moment of unity where we choose hope over fear, progress over division, and courage over complacency. So I'm going to ask you all to rise to the challenge. Let's honor the legacy of those who came before us by ensuring the future generations inherit a nation worthy of their dreams. And let's remember that greatness is not a gift, it's a responsibility that we all share. Thank you. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. This is Uncle D.
In the Spurling podcast, hit the like button, subscribe.